We are live for another episode of the Couch Warrior podcast. As always, I'm your host, Mike, and today we're breaking down UFC 321. We've got a pretty damn good pay-per-view, and I'm excited for it. There's a lot of good fights, some decent betting spots. I've got a couple bets placed already, and as always, if you want my bets, my notes, my breakdowns, you can only get those at the House of Stims Discord. Link is in the description of this video. And yeah, we'll do a quick recap, like always, of last week, and then we'll jump right into this week. So, and then I'll catch up with the chat as well. I see some of you guys in there. But last week could have been better. I mean, we essentially broke even. I lost $8, but you know, I made some very good bets. I made some very bad bets. I had Bruno Silva plus 195. That cash looked great. The read was there. Ravina Oliveira, I had a half unit there, plus 245. Like it was I guess it was sort of a closer fight than the line said, but I don't think it was the best bet. I had Jasmine Jasudavicius. I mean, she just got knocked out, so there's nothing learned there. And then RDR, I had 2 units on him. That was a terrible mistake. And it's annoying when I do this because it's often fighters that I don't believe in. And then I kind of let the noise get to me. And I'm like, yeah, they should get it done. And then I play them, I force, and it cost me a winning night because without that bet, I would have been up just about 2 units. And that one bet brought me down. I did have Croden round 3 knockout plus 2,000. That was nice. Profited like almost 5 units from that. I had Croden round 2 as well. Obviously that lost. And then I had Gibson by decision. He got smoked. And I had Bekov and Barlow parlayed, and they both lost. So have to keep working on some things, keep tweaking on some things, but the reads are semi there for the most part. I think just a few things I could change, and hopefully we can start to get back into the winning ways, because I started off this year really well, and now it's kind of starting to slow down, and I would like to turn it around. And thank you guys for always sticking with me. Always appreciate you guys. Without you, there would be no Couch Warrior podcast. All right, I'll catch up with the chat, and then we'll jump into it. We got Daz in here. It's 105 degrees. You're in what? You're in Australia, Daz? That's brutal. Glenbot using Celsius. I can't even tell you how hot or cold that is. I'll be completely honest. Not gonna pretend. Let's see. We just got Glenbot and Daz in here, but all right. And then, yeah, if you guys are watching, whether on YouTube or Twitter, hop in the live chat. Always way more fun when you guys do that. And you know, you can do it off Twitter. You guys never use it, but you can comment on Twitter, and I'll get it and I can put it up. All right, let's jump into it. Some of these fights I haven't taped yet. I'll let you know when we get there. And this first fight I have not taped yet. We have Jaqueline Amorim versus Mizuki Inoue. Amorim 10-1-0, 30 years old, 5'3" with a 68-inch reach. Inoue 15-6-0. She's 31. She's 1 year older. She's going to be 1 year, 1 year older. She's going to be the same height, and she's going to have a 4-inch reach disadvantage. Not that it really matters. Amorim isn't out here using deep kicks and jabs to keep her opponents at bay, nor is she using footwork and using her range. So not that the reach doesn't really matter all that much. Maybe in the grappling it helps. It probably does. But anyways, I haven't taped this one yet. I am very familiar with Amorim. I know Inoue, but I don't remember how she fights. I genuinely don't. I know that she's been taken down by Lemos, by Goldie. Those don't seem to be great things for me. And I do really rate Amorim's grappling. I really rate her jiu-jitsu. I think she's really, really good in the grappling. And if she starts to catch up in the striking even a little bit and fixes up that cardio problem that we saw against Sam Hughes, then I think she's going to be a menace. But I have to tape this one. For now, I'm just going to go square. I'm going to say Amorim sub 1. But I got to tape it. And I'm also, it's highly unlikely that I'm going to be doing anything with Amorim at minus 450. And I highly doubt that her props are playable. Let's take a look at those. Yeah, so the under's chalk, which is interesting at this weight class, but it makes sense because Amorim is a finisher. Amorim sub is at least plus money, which I didn't expect. How about round 1? Plus 350. I actually don't hate that, but I need to tape this one, and we can move on. Next up, we have Azat Maksum versus Mitch Raposo. Maksum, he's going to be 15-2-0. He's going to be 30 years old, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. On the other side, Raposo, 9-3-0. He's going to be 27. He's 3 years older. He's going to be 2 inches shorter, and he's going to be at a 6-inch reach disadvantage. Real quick, let me catch up with everybody. I see some other people hopping in. We got Drinking No Things. What's up, my brother? Thank you for tuning in. Let's see what else we got. ACC, good to see you in here. Amorim decision, but KO is live. That could be interesting. And I'm not familiar with Inoue's injuries. I have to look that up. My guy Dravi, I can't believe you dare show yourself here after you guys steal my time slot. Crazy, crazy. But make sure you check out Beat the Line broadcast. They'll be going live at 9 p.m. Eastern time after me. So check them out. Stole my time, though. Anyways, we got Maksum versus Raposo. Look, I don't love the price tag on Maksum when he's 1-2 in the UFC, but realistically, I don't know what Raposo has for him. And I can't game out in my head what a Raposo win looks like. Like, you guys know me. I love my big underdogs, almost always backing them. If you look at my Bet MMA, you'll see the majority of my bets are plus money. And when it comes to it, if I like an underdog, I have to be able to game out what the win looks like. And I can't really game it out. Like, okay, does Raposo have the skills here to minute win or even win moments and win a decision? I mean, look, on the feet, I think Maksum is a cleaner striker. He's got the reach advantage by 6 inches, and he uses it relatively well. Nice, clean, straight punches, not really doing anything too crazy. Kicks are solid. Combinations are solid. And he's got some pop to his punch. You know, he hurt Charles Johnson. That's not easy. Hurt him bad in that first round. Had a very competitive fight with Tagir. He can wrestle too. And in the striking department, like Raposo's boxing, it's decent. Like, it's not horrible. There's way worse strikers out there, but like I don't think he's a better striker than Maksum. I don't think he has the power to knock out Maksum. I mean, Maksum fought Tyson Nam, who hits like a train. Charles Johnson doesn't hit too hard either, but attritionally, he's able to finish guys a lot of the time. Not a lot of the time, but he's able to. Tagir, not a lot of power, but I don't think Raposo carries crazy power, so I don't really think he's knocking out Maksum. I don't think he has the kind of power to win moments and like hurt him or anything like that, stumble him. So I don't think he's winning on the feet. And then is he going to out-grapple Maksum? I have a hard time believing that when I just saw him with Tagir. And I consider Maksum a pretty good wrestler in his own right. And Raposo's been taken down. Raposo's been submitted, out-grappled, you name it. So I just don't know how Raposo wins. That's my thing. You'll never hear me call anything a lock. I don't believe in them. It's mixed martial arts. But I do think Maksum should win this fight. Unless there's like something that really crazy happens, or, you know, like even though I don't think Raposo has power, at the end of the day, this is MMA. One punch can change everything, and it doesn't have to be the most powerful punch. It just has to be well placed. So of course he can win. I personally can't envision what it looks like. So we're gonna go Maksum. I lean towards a decision, but I think he could possibly finish Raposo too. Next up, we have the best fight of the card, obviously, and you know I'm this weekend, I'm hosting the fights at my crib. I'm doing it for my birthday. And what better birthday gift than Chris Barnett fighting? Couldn't ask for anything better. But we got Chris Barnett versus Hamdy Abdelwahab. Chris Barnett, 23, 9-0. He's 39 years old, 5'9" with a 75-inch reach. He's my height, but he's a heavyweight. Hamdy, 4-1-0. He's 32. He's going to be 7 years younger. He's going to be 5 inches taller. And he's actually going to be at a 2-inch reach disadvantage, but I don't think that matters at all. Look, I love Barnett. He's really fun. I'll never forget the first live UFC event I ever went to was Covington Usman 2. It was an MSG. And we walked through the doors. I had a bet on John Vellante at the time. God knows why. And he just spinning wheel kicks John Vellante and knocks him out. It was electric. It was electric. But like, he's not... Like, I want to be nice. I respect him, but like, he's not good. Like, he's not. He's explosive for a man of his size and pretty fast for a man of his, stature. But like, he's not a clean striker. He can't put together long combinations or, like a competent 15 minutes on the feet. Like, I don't think so. He's very flat-footed. He's slow. And on top of that, he's riddled with injuries at this point. I mean, he came into that Nchukwu fight just completely broken already. And I have a hard time believing that he's in any better, physical condition now at 39 years old. And it's been just about a year. Like, I just, he's fun to have around, but he's not great. And Hamdy, believe me, I'm not high on Hamdy either at all. But he should win this fight, like really, really easily. I mean, if he wanted to wrestle, he doesn't always, even though he literally has a very high level of wrestling background. If he wanted to wrestle, he could do it with literally no problem whatsoever. Like, Barnett is not stuffing a single takedown. If Hamdy wants one, he's going to end up on top. And, he can probably outstrike Barnett too. Is it the best idea to give Barnett his one chance of winning? No, but I don't really think Barnett's going to knock him out. If anything, I think Hamdy can knock him out. Hamdy actually has low-key a little bit of power. He does hit relatively hard. And I do think at some point he's going to knock out Barnett. I think whether it's standing, whether it's him taking down Barnett and just beating up on him, I think all those things are on the table. But I really do think that Hamdy's going to finish him. I love Barnett, and I would love nothing more than him to come out and get a knockout, preferably a spinning one. I really don't think so. I really don't think so. So we'll go Hamdy KO. Let's call it round 2. And I'll catch up with the chat, and then we'll move on. Let's see what we got here. Thank you, Glenbot. A little early still, but thank you anyway. Mine's October 30th. I just didn't want to host for the Onama card because it's it's a pretty crappy card to host for my birthday. Oh, almost happy birthday for you too, ACC. What's up, Jackson? Thank you for tuning in. Glad you made it. Yeah, this is definitely a comedy show. Not this fight, the one before, Chris Barnett. Gwenba, that's funny. Let's see what else we got. Almost every Instagram reel on my feed for the last 2 months, Chris Barnett has commented. Riding with the algorithm. Does that mean you're betting on Barnett? Good luck. What's Barnett knockout? I'm just curious. That's actually pretty funny that it's only plus 425. They don't really give him any other way of winning. But all right, let's move on because this fight is really sick. We have Jose Delgado versus Nathaniel Wood. Delgado is going to be 10-1-0, 27 years old, 5'11" with a 73-inch reach. On the other side, Wood, 21-6-0. He's 32. He's 5 years older. He's going to be quite a bit shorter, 5 inches shorter, and he's giving up 4 inches in reach. This is a really good fight. I'm having a hard time, having a confident take on it. I think there's a few things that I am confident in. I'm confident that Wood has fought the better level of competition. I'm confident that Wood is more well-rounded. I'm confident that Jose Delgado can 100% knock out Wood. And I'm fairly confident that Wood could probably hurt him too. When I look at this fight, I don't love that Wood's at 145. I still don't love it. But at this point, he's had 12 UFC fights. 6 were at bantamweight, 6 were at featherweight. He's been a featherweight just as long, maybe not as long, but he's had as many featherweight fights as he has had bantamweight, and he is winning. He's 5-1 in those 6 featherweight fights. The only loss coming to Naimov in what was just a tragedy, honestly, of refereeing, just foul after foul after foul after foul. And you guys do need to keep in mind what region we are in for this card, and that the judging and the reffing is normally very, very tilted. So you do have to keep that in mind, but I don't think that's going to be a problem in this fight. Neither of these guys is a hometown fighter or anything like that. But I don't love that Wood's up at 145 still. I think that, his power has translated, which is impressive. I actually think he seems to hit harder at 145 than he did at bantamweight. But he's getting hurt a lot. He's getting rocked. He's getting dropped. That is a concern when you're fighting Delgado, who hits very hard. And he's very dynamic and very crisp on the feet. And the other thing with Wood that I wanted to mention, my guy Dravi brought it up to my attention. He sent me this interview, and then he sent me this other thing. Pretty much what Wood said in the interview was that this is the last fight on his contract. I guess that's how things work now. They don't renegotiate until the contract's over. And he pretty much said, yeah, if they don't re-sign me, that's fine. I'm good. I'm good to just call it a career, and he's happy where he's at in life, and I'm happy for him. But that makes me a little bit concerned. You know, Delgado, he's not coming in here with that mindset. Delgado's coming in here. I want to be champ. I want to win. I want to, you know, get that dub. Wood obviously wants to win. Like, of course he wants to win, but his mind is already telling him, like, hey, if you lose, it's okay. So that does concern me a little bit. Now, skill for skill, how do they match up? It's really interesting. I mean, on the feet, like, if Wood can close the distance, take away those kicks, take away the kicking range, he's the better boxer. I think he is the better boxer. I think he has the better hands. The problem is, like, yeah, you'll make Delgado uncomfortable if you back him up and take away the space, and you'll take away those kicks because he does have really good kicks. But at the same time, then he can clinch up with you and start ripping those knees because he has disgusting clinch knees and he's finished people with them more than once. So that's a little bit of a concern. And the other thing is, Wood is so short. Those knees, he doesn't even have to try. They're going to come up to his head every single time because he's that much taller. So I have that worry. And I have the worry that I just don't know if Wood's chin can take those knees. Like, he's tough. Even though he's been knocked down, he hasn't been knocked out at featherweight, at least. I know he did get knocked out as a bantamweight, but I do worry for him. I do worry for him a little bit. Now, the grappling is another interesting thing. I think that Delgado has actually shown some decent grappling, but it's mostly trips, and it could work against Wood, especially because he's so much bigger and stronger. But I consider Wood's takedown defense pretty good, and I don't think he's going to be easy for Delgado to take down, whereas I think Wood could take down Delgado with less resistance. I do think that Wood is a better wrestler. I think he has better jiu-jitsu, and I think that if he chooses to grapple here, he can make his life a little bit easier, at least early, you know, go for the takedowns, try to wear on Delgado and slow him down, because any fight of his you watch, even the ones where he wins in the second round or whatever, he does slow down. Against Herny Juarez on the Contender Series, round 2, he was not as explosive as he was in the first. He was not at all. Against Chris Makate in that one fight he lost, same thing. And Makate was kind of just able to wrestle him for 3 rounds. Now, Makate, one of the better regional guys in the division, and it's pretty fair to say that he's likely going to end up in the UFC sooner rather than later. But, you know, that did show that Delgado has holes. He can be out-grappled, and you can take him down, and you can make him uncomfortable if you take away the space. So, and the other thing I wanted to talk about, like, I've started recently to pay more attention to the flights. When we have shows that are across the globe, I started to pay attention, like, okay, if this person is big and they have a big weight cut, how is this going to affect them? You know, and that was my read for the Davy Grant Blackshear fight, right? That was pretty much the thing that made me say, okay, I'm going to go bet Davy Grant. And, you know, this is a little different because I knew at the time that Blackshear struggles with the weight cut, and I knew at the time that Blackshear can have health issues that mess with him. I don't know that about Delgado. I don't have any. As far as I know, he doesn't struggle to lose weight, to cut the weight. And while he is big, maybe he does it well. But at the same time, maybe he doesn't. From what I understand, let me just double check this. I don't think he's ever fought outside of America, Delgado, but let me just double check that. So I'm not talking out of my, you know what. Okay, so Topuria Oliveira, that was in Vegas. This was in Vegas, the Connor Matthews. Contender Series, we know, is in Vegas. Lucas Ferreira was in Arizona. Also Arizona. UFL, I know, is in the U.S., also Arizona. Yes, so Delgado's never fought outside of America, right? So this is going to be his first time cutting weight, and while flying across the globe, this is not an easy flight we're talking about. I mean, from New York to where they're going, it's like, what, I think like 12 hours, something along those lines. Now, he's out in Arizona. Arizona from here is like 4 hours. I assume he's looking at like a 16 to 17 hour flight, right? So, something along those lines. That's not easy. That's not easy. And when you're cutting weight, like, that will really affect you. And I do think that it could be a problem for him because he's never dealt with this before. He's never had to fly somewhere else while cutting weight. And let's check when he got there, because I taped this fight today. Let's check if we can see if he's there yet. All right, the most recent post was 3 days ago. Yeah, so I don't have any info on whether he's there or not. Let me see his story. He is there. He is there. He's signing posters. So he's so he's already there. That's good. At least the week of he's there. But it's just difficult, and I think that is worth considering because for Wood it's only a 6-hour flight. For Delgado it's much longer, and Wood also doesn't have to cut any weight because he moved up to 145 for exactly that reason. He's not a big 145er, and he doesn't have to cut much weight if anything. So I do think that favors Wood, and because Wood's also fought the much higher level of competition, he's much more experienced. He does have the grappling upside, in my opinion. I have to lean towards Wood getting it done. Although I do think 100% Delgado can knock him out. I just also think you can't count out Wood to get a knockout. He also hits hard, and I don't like Delgado's defense in the pocket. I don't like it at all. I think you can catch him. And, yeah, that's where I'm at. I also kind of like the sub for Wood. I don't know if I'm going to play it yet, but to me, it probably should not be plus 1,000 or higher, which it is. So that's another thing that I'm possibly looking at. I don't have any plays yet, though. And as always, if you want my bets, my notes, or my breakdowns, you can only get them at the House of Stims Discord. Link is in the description of this video. All right, let's see what we got in the chat, and then we're going to move on. Gwenbot saying Jose decision by winning the moments, and Wood can't grapple him down too much. Possible. Jammer saying it's a badass fight. He's talking about the Wood one. It is. Wood is crafty. What's up, Ryder? Wood is crafty, but this is a tough matchup. It is a tough matchup. He can get knocked out for sure. Maybe Would be comfortable losing a decision. What do you mean, Glenbot? Sport is so tough. You don't see guys retire in other sports. I mean, every athlete has to retire eventually, no? What's up, John B? Appreciate you for tuning in. Glenbot talking about Salkilled. We'll talk about that soon. Gane isn't champion material if he gets a Jamal. We'll talk about that soon as well. Who's a loser? Me or Gane? Anyways, moving on. We've got Valter Walker versus Louie Sutherland. Walker, he's going to be 14-1-0, 27 years old, 6'6" with a 78.5-inch reach. Sutherland 10-3-0. He's 31. He's going to be 4 years older. He's going to be 3 inches shorter, and he's going to be at a 2-inch reach disadvantage. So both of these guys had fights that were previously scheduled for, I want to say, 2 weeks ago. Something like that. I don't remember off the top of my head. Those fights fell through. Now they're fighting each other. So there's a concern for both of them that they've been flying around while cutting weight. That's a concern, but they're both dealing with it. So I guess it kind of evens out. I mean, like, I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. I think that Sutherland is a solid heavyweight addition to the roster. Our division is empty, and the UFC's been trying really hard to fill it up this year. And he's a good addition. I think he's going to get plenty of wins at heavyweight. He's pretty athletic, I would say, for the division to an extent. He's very strong. He's very physical. He's strong in the clinch. He's a solid enough striker. He's not an amazing striker, but he's solid. And he's got decent takedown defense and decent wrestling. But can he outstrike Walker on the feet? Yeah, he can. He can. Walker's not a good striker at all. He's not a good striker. Now, he's 27 years old, and it's entirely possible it'll get better. It's likely that it'll get better. And it's not like Sutherland is far and away the better striker, but I do think Sutherland's probably a slightly better striker purely because I don't think Walker's a good striker at all. But I don't think this is going to stay on the feet. I don't. Like, we know Walker now. He's just going to go directly at Sutherland. He's thrown technique out the window. We saw that in the Nchukwu fight. I mean, what was that? And I think he's just going to do the same thing. I think he's going to keep running at Sutherland, taking him down. And do I think he's going to heel hook him? I think he can. This is a guy who he could probably heel hook. Sutherland hasn't really fought anybody like this. So, yeah, I think Walker can heel hook him, which is hilarious. What is it now? It's 3 in a row. A fourth one would be really good. But I also think that outside of the heel hook, I think that he can take him down and just beat up on him, win the minutes. I think he can win a decision. I think he can sub him. I guess a ground and pound TKO is possible, but I feel like Sutherland is tough, and he's going to at least keep trying to move on the ground, and Walker might just settle for a sub instead and go that way. So I'll go Walker sub. I don't know if it's going to happen as quickly as the last few. Maybe we'll go round 2 this time, but I do think that Walker gets it done this week. I do. Let me catch up with the chat, and then we'll keep going. Glenbot saying, oh, he's talking about Wood. If he's retiring, he won't be mad about losing the decision. Sorry, Mike, Wood I'm talking about. Yeah, I get what you're saying. That's kind of how he came off, honestly, in the interview. He did kind of come off that way where, like, you can tell he still wants to win, but he doesn't have championship aspirations. He doesn't. From what I can tell from his interview, he doesn't. And he said he's okay if this is it. And it's interesting that he even thinks that's on the table because he's only lost one fight in his last 5. I don't see why the UFC would cut him. He's a good fighter, puts on exciting fights. He's not boring. And, you know, he's a UK guy that they can easily put on those cards. So I don't know why he even thinks that they might not re-sign him. But, yeah, it's a little concerning, that mindset. Flying from Russia to Brazil to Middle East. Yeah, but is it that much easier for Sutherland? Was Sutherland supposed to also fight in Brazil? Pretty sure that's the card he was also supposed to be on. So I feel like it's not that different. Oh, no. So Sutherland was supposed to fight on the Perth card. And Walker was supposed to fight on the Rio card, I believe. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I just think it's not easy for either of them. And I feel like it's not really going to make much of a difference in this fight. What's up, my brother? We got the dog father in the chat. Why does his back look like that? He's talking about Sutherland because he's flexing, bro. You never stood in front of the mirror and flexed like this with your whatever these things are called. This stuff. Sloppy heavyweight goes the distance. Not at this price. Not at this price when Walker can literally just drop to the ankle and probably get it if he tried. I've played my fair share of Walker overs. Never again. All right. Let's move on. Next up, we have Abdul-Kareem Al-Selwady versus Matheus Camilo. Selwady, he's going to be 15-4-0, 30 years old, 5'8" with a 69-inch reach. Camilo, 9-3-0. He's 24, so he's 6 years younger. He's going to be 2 inches taller, and he's going to have the same reach. So if you don't remember Camilo, he, prior to his first UFC fight, if you guys remember that Russian dude who came during the press conference, said, Dana, I'm undefeated, sign me. Dana hooked him up with a Korean zombie to fight in his promotion. He fought Camilo. Camilo beat him, and then Camilo made his debut. Had a semi-decent performance until he got submitted by Gabe Green, and Gabe Green had moved to lightweight for that fight. So this is an interesting one. I will say again, remember the region we're in, and remember how judging is here, and remember what they did to Paul Hughes twice, especially the second time. And it's not just Paul Hughes. Remember what they did to Carlos Leal, and the list goes on. And keep that in mind because it will favor Selwady. If this fight goes the distance, it will favor Selwady. The crowd, the judges, probably the ref too. It's going to favor Selwady. At this point, that's just a fact. It's just a fact. I'm a guy who is very hesitant to believe in narratives and believe in things like this, like hometown cooking. There's hometown cooking. There is. I'm certain about it. There is. And if this goes the distance, he will get his hometown cooking. Now, that narrative aside, how they match up, I think it's super interesting. I think that with Camilo, I'm pretty high on him as a prospect going forward. I think that his striking is sick. I really like his striking. I love the body work. You guys know me. I'm a sucker for body work. If you have a good jab, a good 1-2 body work, and you can wrestle, you're my favorite fighter. So he has good body work. He's got a solid jab, decent 1-2. I do think that sometimes his combinations and his output is a bit lacking. Like sometimes almost all he's doing is a jab and body shots, which is great. But you should probably mix it up a little bit more, maybe throw in some more kicks. He does have power, though. And so why do we do know his chin's not the strongest in the world? The Yoick knockout, I don't blame him all that much because Yoick does hit very hard and he is a big, beefy lightweight. But, you know, he did still get knocked out by a tired Yoick, and he's been knocked out 3 times prior to that as well. So those are concerns. Those are concerns. And like, yeah, he didn't get hurt in the Harry Hardwick fight, but Harry's not a hard hitter. He's not. He's an attritional finisher when he finishes most of the time. So on the feet here, I think that Camilo is the better striker. I think that the body work could be a really good weapon for him. And I think that he can 100% get a knockout. I do think that he can knock out Selwady at any round. I do. But I don't want to make it seem like Sawadi's a bad striker, because he's actually a pretty good striker too. If you watch that fight with Harry Hardwick, he was very intelligent in that fight. His defense was on point. His angles were on point. His movement was good. His defense was very good. And he was able to get his own offense going, and it was very, very clean. Solid combinations, solid jabs, decent kicks. And I do think he can compete with Camilo standing. I think that as long as the chin holds up, he's not going to be completely out of it on the feet. He won't. He's going to have moments. Camilo can be outstruck because he doesn't throw a lot sometimes. So Sawadi can have his moments. It's just the chin that I'm concerned about, because if Camilo lands hard, he could put him out. Now, the big advantage for Sawadi, it's the grappling. It's the wrestling. He's a solid wrestler. That's his base from what I understand, and he does a pretty good job of it. Now, Yoic isn't an easy guy to out-grapple, but he was able to get takedowns there. And Camilo's takedown defense isn't good. It's not. He gets taken down all the time. Like, all of his fights, he's getting taken down. Now, his own offensive wrestling is actually impressively good, too. His entries are nice, and when I was taping him, I didn't remember that about him, so I was pretty surprised. But his offensive wrestling is pretty good. And if he goes for the takedowns first, he might be able to take down Sawadi. But his defensive wrestling isn't good. He gets taken down constantly. And when he was fighting the Russian guy I told you guys about, Nabatov was exhausted. He was exhausted in the second and third round, and he still kept taking Camilo down. Now, to Camilo's credit, he works back up to his feet very well. But I still don't like it. Like, just because you're getting up to the feet, that's a good thing. But can you not get taken down 20 times first? Like, that would be an even better thing. So that's a concern I have with Camilo. And it's a concern I have in this fight in particular, because Sawadi, I think, will wrestle. I do think he's going to wrestle. And if he does, he should be able to win this fight. But there could be the question of damage over control. Maybe Sawadi, similar to Camilo's fight with Nabatov, where he did get taken down a lot, but he still won because he landed the better shots. And I do think he's going to do the better work on the feet here. So maybe Camilo can still win the decision by landing the bigger shots. Again, remember, though, the hometown judges. But the other thing is Camilo's actually low-key pretty dangerous off his back in that triangle. While I don't love that it can end up with him being stuck there, I do think that he can catch Sawadi in a triangle. I wouldn't be shocked. But I also think that Sawadi has a good head on his shoulders, and I think he should be able to defend against that. So for me, I'm pretty torn in this fight. I think I'm going to lean. Normally, when you give me a striker versus a grappler, close line, I'm going to go with the grappler. And he also is fighting at home. Not at home, but he's going to have the crowd, the judges' advantage, the ref advantage. He's going to have it. So I'll go with Sawadi. I'm not super confident. I'm semi-considering a play. But if I'm hesitating, then I probably shouldn't do it. So this is where I'm at. I will say, Camilo has been submitted 3 times. And first of all, the Gabe Green submission loss, not great. It almost looked like he quit. I don't like to say that about fighters, but that's what it looked like. And Sawadi does go for subs. He hasn't in the UFC yet, but you have to understand who he's been fighting and the kind of fights that it was. And you look at his regional stuff, like against Michael Murphy, for example, he went for subs multiple times in that fight. He does hunt for them once he's on the ground. So I think if he does take down Camilo, he is going to try to submit him. And I think that is on the table for Sawadi as well. So just be careful playing any like decision props or anything like that. Let's catch up with the chat, and then we'll keep going. I hate that Aspinall Gane would be a 60-second fight. How do you even know how good Aspinall is? We will talk about that when we get to the main event. Glennbot saying, I'm on fight, doesn't go the distance, pretty big, and Camilo Abdul fight. I think it makes sense. It's not really a play I would make because I can also see Sawadi just laying on him, but it covers a lot of outcomes. It covers a Sawadi sub. It covers a Camilo sub off the back. It covers a knockout. So I do like it. Ryder saying that, again, we're talking about this fight over here. Ryder saying could be an easy over 1.5. Crisp really doesn't like Gane. That's what I'm seeing. Crisp is not a Gane fan. That's for sure. When Gane fought Jones, was very surprised that people were happy with that result. What do you mean by that? I think this is regional guy that loses for me anyway. What are you talking about, Glennbot? But all right, let's move on. Next up, we have another really good fight. We have Matheus Rebecki versus Ludovit Klein. Rebecki 23-0. He's 33 years old, 5'7" with a 66-inch reach. On the other side, Klein, he's going to be 23, 5-1, 30 years old, 5'7", so they're the same height, and he's going to have a 6.5-inch reach advantage. So this is a really fun fight. It's a really good fight. I have always been a Klein truther. I know people have not been fans of his. I've always been a truther, and I like to think I have a pretty good read on Klein. I'm relatively successful in his fights from what I remember. I've backed him in a lot of spots. I backed him when he was the dog to Bahamondes. I was an island there. I backed the KO against Cunningham at a very, very generous line. It was like, I think it was like plus 100 or something. I don't think I touched the Roosevelt Roberts fight because he was like minus 500. I did bet him over Moises, and I did fade him with Gamrot. So I think I have a solid read on him. Rebecki, how about him? He's been a roller coaster, but I definitely bet him against Duncan, which was a horrible bet. Lost there. I definitely bet him against Orobai at like plus 290 or something. Beautiful bet. I definitely bet him against CDF. Terrible bet. So him, I haven't had as good of a read on, but I think they match up pretty interesting. So with Klein, he's a really good striker. I think that his boxing is solid, but his kicks are a lot better. His body kicks are nasty. His head kicks are nasty. His leg kicks are nasty, and he does carry a lot of power, both in the hands and in with the kicks. And he does have good body work as well. His takedown defense, there's been a lot of talk about it now, saying like, oh, Klein's takedown defense isn't good. It was fraudulent. Gamrot proved that it was fraudulent. That's a load of, you guys know what, okay? Gamrot is a completely different kind of wrestler than the majority of the UFC. He doesn't just, he's not going for doubles or trips. Almost every time he's going for that low single where he's going for the ankle, and he starts there and then he works up your body. That's way different from everything else Klein has faced. When I'm looking at takedown defense and stuff, like this is the only kind of thing I can bring from my own life into MMA like analysis, is that I wrestled. So I know a thing or two about that. And when I look at guys and I'm trying to assess their takedown defense, I don't care what UFC stats says. I don't care, because that can be so skewed depending on your competition. Like, okay, yeah, Klein, for example, 90% takedown defense, but against who, right? What I look at is what are they doing? What are they doing when they're defending, right? Are they looking for the cage to get their back to it? Okay, that's a good thing. More importantly, are they immediately looking for the underhooks? Because that's super important. Are they fighting the hands? That's super important. Do they have good hips? Because hips are super important in wrestling defense and scrambles and offense too. Those are the things I'm looking at. Balance, things like that. And I do think Klein has very good takedown defense. He does all the right things. He does everything correctly. He reacts very quickly. He has great takedown defense. It's just Gamrot is a different kind of grappler and a different kind of wrestler. That's why he was able to beat him like that. Now with Rebecki, he's a more orthodox kind of wrestler, a more, traditional kind of wrestler is the right way to say it. He'll go for things like doubles, things like that. He's not going to be going for low singles like Gamrot. I don't think he's going to have an easy time taking down Klein, but I do think he can take him down. And I think it's less because of, the skill of the wrestling, more so because he's going to be in Klein's face. In my opinion, Klein needs a clean fight, and Rebecki will not give him a clean fight. Rebecki is going to be constantly on the front foot, forward, 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 forward. And it doesn't matter how much you beat up on his face and how blown up his eye is. He's going to keep going and going and going until either he gets finished or he finishes you. So I think because of the pressure and because he's going to be throwing a lot more output and a lot more volume, I think that's going to open up the opportunities for him to duck down and hit that double leg or hit a takedown off the fence. I think that will be on the table for him later on in the fight. Maybe not early when Klein is fresh. Those fast twitch muscles are on point. Once he starts to slow down a little bit, that's when I think Rebecki's going to be able to get the takedowns. And I think that the major thing for me is that Klein is just a really good hammer and a really poor nail. When Klein has a clean fight, when he has the fight he wants, he's amazing. He's a very, very good fighter, and he's on point, and he's getting it done. But when he's facing adversity, Nate Landwehr, Gamrot as he's getting the takedowns, fights like that, that's when he seems to struggle. And Rebecki's not going to give him a clean fight. Like, Rebecki's everything but like a clean technical kickboxer. That's not how he fights. He's just moving forward nonstop. So I don't think the reach advantage is going to do much. I don't think that Klein is going to knock out Rebecki, who I consider very, very durable. Now, I do worry that damage shows up on Rebecki's face the way it does, but like, did you guys see what he did to Chris Duncan's face or Orobai? Like, he causes damage too. Duncan's face was busted. So for me, I think that if someone does get takedowns, it's going to be Rebecki. I think that the striking, Rebecki will be competitive, especially because of the forward pressure and because he's just going to throw more. And because he moves forward, and I think he's going to take away the space from Klein and make those kicks difficult. So I like Rebecki here. I think Rebecki's going to get it done. I think he's going to win by decision. But now that I'm talking about it, I'm just curious what round 3 is. Plus 1,000. It's about normal. How about round 3 KO? That could be interesting. But I do lean towards a decision. All right, let's go through the chat, and then we'll keep on going on. All right, let's see. All right, Drinking No Thing saying, Mike, what's your general tape study process? So, good question. Maybe I should make a video on it one day, but I don't know if people really care. But what I do is I have a little chart. The guys in the House of Stims Discord, they can tell you, or anybody who was in my Discord when I used to post my notes and stuff for free can tell you. It's just a chart, a Google Docs chart. Have it split in, like one fighter goes on one side of the chart, one goes on the other, and I fill it out from top to bottom. First, I fill it out before I start taping. I fill out the, how many knockouts they have, how many times they've been knocked out, how many times they've been submitting, how many times they've gotten a submission, what their record is in decisions, how many times they've made it out of round 1 or round 2 if there's somebody who doesn't go to decisions often, where are they training, what's their stance, orthodox, southpaw. I'll fill all that out. Then I'll start to tape. I'll keep the chart on one side of my screen, the other side of the screen. Just shook my monitor. The other side of the screen, I'll have the actual, fights that I'm taping. And then I'll go through it, and I'll fill out the chart, and I'll tape the fights. Usually it really depends on the fight on how far I'll go back. Like if it's a minus 500 and I'm confident they're going to get it done, I'm not going to go too deep. But if it's a close fight, I can go pretty deep. I'll go as far back as regionals. I'll go back into the regionals, like far in. And then it also depends on what I'm looking for. Like if it's a striker versus grappler matchup, and I don't know. Let's say it's a striker who's in the UFC a couple fights, but I haven't seen them face takedowns. I'm going to go in the regional tape. I'm going to look for a grappler who they fought and try to see how they face those takedowns. So that's kind of what my process is. And then I write a breakdown of what I just saw. And then I decide like, hey, do I have a bet here or do I not? And then I move on. And of course, I do the whole like implied probability thing. Okay, I think this is like a 60% outcome. What's the line? And I go off of that. If you ever have any questions, if anyone ever has any questions on how I tape fights, how I break down fights, how I decide bets, slide in my DMs. I'm happy to talk to anybody. I like people. All right, let's see. Rebecki took life-changing damage in his last fight. I mean, he's taken life-changing damage in like all his fights, honestly. But I mean, for now, the durability is holding up. Can Klein be the one to crack it? Yeah, 100% he can. But at plus money, I'm willing to find out. Glenbot, he's referring to his previous comment. One regional guy always loses on these cards. I need to be clear. All good, Glenbot. I'm happy that you guys are in the chat. Last week, we were a quiet chat, and it's way less fun. And currently, there's 686 of you watching, the majority on Twitter, and you guys never comment. You rarely like, and you rarely retweet. So help me out. Do some of that. Ideally, hop in here and talk with me because it's way more fun, but it is what it is. Fight does not go the distance. Rebecki's always in a war. I don't hate that look. Rebecki coming. This is the most concerning thing for me with Rebecki, I would say. That is concerning. He did just take a whooping, and that was only 3 months ago. That is probably my main concern in this fight, fading Klein with him. My guy Dan. Appreciate you, Dan. Make sure you guys are watching Dan's stuff and listen to him and smash my like button. But very importantly, if you're not already subscribed to him for some reason, and I would bet money that most of you are, but if you're not, do so. That dude deserves 10K. I believe he's very close. Let's get Dan there. He deserved literally. At this point, he's got to be the longest MMA betting breakdown podcast in the business. I'm pretty sure about that. So, he as Dan says, he's paid his dues. So give him those subs. Hey, I appreciate the questions, man. Like I said, feel free. And yeah, listen to Glenbot. Share the stream. All right, let's move on. Next up, we have Ikram Aliskerov versus Young Park. Aliskerov, he's going to be 16-2-0, 32 years old, 6 feet tall with a 76-inch reach. Park, 19-6-0, 34. He's 2 years older. He's going to be 2 inches shorter, and he's going to have a 3-inch reach disadvantage. So I know people don't like Ikram. I get it. Not really, but okay. You know, it happens. But I never really liked Park. I was never high on Park. I've tried to fade Park many, many times. Obviously, it doesn't work very often because he's been winning most of the time. But I've never really liked him too much because I just felt like he doesn't really separate. He's super hittable, and I just never thought he was exceptional at anything. I also think he's kind of small for the weight. But he made a fan out of me his last fight against Nordiev. I mean, this dude took a legitimate and what appeared to be an intentional knee to the head while grounded. Did not look like he was okay to fight. Was essentially forced to fight. And then just beat the crap out of Nordiev. Left no question whatsoever. And dominantly won. To me, that was awesome. I thought that was awesome. I think he's a boss. And he did make a fan out of me. Now, in this fight, you know, with Ikram, he hasn't left the first round since getting to the UFC. Before that, there was the Nishan Burrell fight, where, you know, he was just kind of grappling the whole time. He wasn't able to get the finish. And then the only other time he's gone the distance was against Chad Hanekom. A very greasy, kind of disgusting looking fight. Not the best look, but he was very early in his career. Like, I'm not going to put too much stock into that. And that was the reason people were hammering Hanekom against Buka on the Contender Series, if you guys remember that. So, you know, he hasn't left the first round in a while. And that's a little concerning for me because Park's going to push a pace. Always does. That's his strength, is breaking guys. He's just grinding. The forward pressure, constantly putting you on your back foot. And when you're on the back foot, you're going to slow down. You're going to get tired. It's very difficult to do, especially when you're trying to fight back. And that's how he gets guys. He breaks them. He slows them down. He's not the best wrestler. He's not the best striker. He's not the best submission grappler. But once you're tired, he becomes a lot more effective. And his wrestling is decent, and his boxing is pretty good. And he's pretty durable. He's extremely hittable, which I hate, but he is durable. I'll give him that. If you guys have never seen the knockout loss to RoboCop, watch it. One of the best sequences ever, where he has RoboCop on the ropes. It looks like it's over. It looks like he's about to get the KO, and then RoboCop just rocks him back. They go flying back the other way across the cage, and RoboCop knocked him out. It was nuts, but we all know RoboCop hits extremely hard. Now, with Ikram, I do think Ikram's a little bit of a better striker. I think he's a little bit slicker. I think he's a little bit faster, and I do think he hits harder than Park does. I'm fairly confident in saying that. And I also think he's a better wrestler. I also think that's fair to say. I think he's a better offensive wrestler. His takedown defense really hasn't been tested much, so we don't know all that much about it. It's possible that it's not great, but I lean towards it being good. And I do think that his submission grappling is probably a little bit better than Park's too. And don't forget, again, remember where these fights are. And remember that Ikram will get the favor of the judges. He will get any favor from the refs. He will get the favor from the crowd. Keep that in mind. But if you put that aside, I do think that this is a winnable fight for Park. I do. Now, I'm very hesitant to put any kind of money on it, because if I put a unit on plus 200 and he wins, obviously, and gets robbed, I'm going to lose my shit. And I might need a new television. But I am thinking about it because, like, on the feet, yeah, I think Aliskerov's slicker. I think he's faster, and I think he hits harder. But I think that Park will compete. I do think he'll compete as long as he doesn't get knocked out. And if he's moving Ikram back, I think Ikram might be uncomfortable on his back foot. And I think Ikram's chin might be a question too. I mean, he got knocked out by Hamza. Okay, fine. And then he got knocked out by Bobby Knuckles in the first round. And you guys know me. That's one of my favorite fighters, is Robert Whittaker. But like that was like his first knockout since like 2016. Like that he made Whitaker look like a world beater. And unfortunately, my guy is not a world beater anymore. I mean, losing to RDR and then seeing what happened to RDR after, not great. But anyways, I lean towards Ikram winning. I do. Whether it's a decision, I think it's a decision. But I think that Park is a very live underdog, and it is a spot that I'm thinking about just based on cardio. I think cardio is super, super important to consider when you're betting. I think it's one of the most important things to consider. Sometimes I remember and I make great bets. Sometimes I forget and I make bad bets because of it. Hopefully, if I do end up on the Park side, this will be one of those times it's a good bet. But yeah, I do think that Park is a very live dog. If he pushes the pace, doesn't get finished, is able to survive Aliskerov when he's most dangerous, which is in that first round, I think Park can get it done. But in terms of a pick, who do I think wins the fight more often than not? If you run it 100 times, I think it's Aliskerov. So that's what I'm going to fill in. Let's see what the chat is saying, and then we'll keep going. Pooperton, I'm glad, buddy. I'm glad that you're using the restroom. Glenbot, he likes Ikram decision. Okay, not bad. What's fight goes? Pick him pretty much. Okay. ACC, it says Rebecki suspended 180 days or cleared by doctor. I guess he got cleared by the doctor. Which White Claw? 0. We save those for the panel these days. Iron Turtle is very durable. Just, I hate the defense or lack thereof. Ikram's getting mogged. That would be glorious, especially if I end up on Park. But all right, let's move on. I think now we're getting to the... No, we're still not on the main card. It's a long card. We've done... All right. All right, next up, we have a fight that just came together. We have Nasrat Haqparast versus Quillan Salkeld. Haqparast, 18-5-0. He's 30 years old, 5'10" with the 72-inch reach. Salkeld, he's 9-1-0. He's 25. He's 5 years younger. He's going to be 2 inches taller, and he's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. So, really good fight. I think that a lot of people are kind of being like, oh, yeah, this is just too much of a step up for Salkeld. No shot. And it's possible. It is possible that this is too much of a step up. And I do have concerns because I think that Salkeld has really good cardio, but I didn't like how he looked in the third round against, what's the fella's name? Ashmuz. Didn't love that too much. And if Nasrat's digging to the body early, which he does do, he has good body work, I think that Nasrat can really slow him down and take advantage. But Nasrat also slows down if he's forced to grapple, and it hasn't happened a lot lately. You kind of have to go way back to see people even try and takedowns on him. I mean, Jared Gordon did. He tried like 13 times and he didn't get it. But arguably, Jared Gordon won that fight. But you go to the Dan Hooker fight, we're talking 4 years ago, something along those lines. There's some comparisons there, right? Hooker, much bigger. He's about a 6-foot lightweight. So is Salkeld. Hooker pushed the grappling, got the takedowns pretty easily, kept Haqparast there pretty easily, and Nasrat did slow down. I think if you can take down Nasrat and you force him to work his way back up, you force him to defend those takedowns, you force him to try to get up on his feet, I think he can slow down. And I think that Salkeld, while like on the feet, I don't think Salkeld's completely out of it. I actually think he's a pretty good striker in his own right, but I think it's pretty fair to say that Nasrat is a cleaner striker. We know that he's going to throw a ridiculous amount of volume as long as he's on the feet. He does have really good body work. He does have really nice combinations. He does have good footwork. So I think Salkeld will be competitive on the feet. I think that he does have good kicks. I think he can do good work with those, but I do favor Nasrat. I just think that Salkeld will get it down. I think he will get the takedowns. I think he will be able to consolidate top control. He does not have the best control, but I think that as he continues to take down Nasrat over and over and over again, I think Nasrat will start to slow a little bit. And I think that if you get Nasrat stuck on his back, especially if he doesn't have the cage to work his way back up, I think he can struggle. So for me, I kind of want to go with the younger guy who's going to have the better grappling, who I think can push the pace here. And I think he's just going to out-grapple Haqparast. So that's where I'm at. I like Salkeld. Again, a little bit worried about the hometown cooking for Nasrat. That's entirely possible. But as long as you're playing Salkeld at plus money and not as a favorite, I think you're okay. I think it's a fine bet. I mean, we'll find out afterwards, but I do like the upside on Salkeld. He's also the one I think who's going to be still improving right now. I think he has a higher ceiling out of the two of them in the division. So, yeah, I like Salkeld in this one. That's the way I'll go. I'll go decision. Let's see what we got in the chat. Yeah, fair points, Glenbot. Like I said, Nasrat will get the hometown rub for sure. And Salkeld does have a long flight and has the weight cut. All very, very fair. And it could end up being really bad for him. But Nasrat also has to make the weight cut. And I don't think he was there already. I could be wrong about that, though. Let's see if we could do some Instagram searching. Yeah, you can't tell from here where he's been at. But from what I understand, this is short notice for him too. So we can move on. Did Nasrat have like an original opponent? No. Yeah, they put this fight together last second. But anyways, next up we have Alexander Rakic versus Azamat Murzakanov starting off the main card. Rakic 14-5-0, 33 years old, 6'4" with a 78-inch reach. Murzakanov on the other side, he's going to be 15-0. He's undefeated. He's going to be 36. He's 3 years older. Going to be, going to be six inches shorter, and he's going to have a 6.5-inch reach disadvantage. So interesting fight. I have my issues with Rakic in that I feel like his mental just isn't there a lot of the time. Like he just doesn't seem like his heart's in it. Like if the going gets tough, I feel like he's like fine to just call it a day. And he's just not urgent. He's not urgent. He's not like looking for the finish. I have my issues with his mental, but at the same time, like you have to consider who they're fighting. Like in his last 3 fights, he fought 3 former champs. He fought Ankalaev, former champ, Prohaska, former champ, Jan, former champ. And before that, Thiago Santos, Anthony Smith, not as great. But Murzakanov, we're talking Brenton Ribeiro, Menefield, Jacoby, Clark, Tafan. Like the level of competition isn't even close. And Glenbot, who were his original opponents? He's talking about Nasrat. I didn't see anything on his Tapology, but what's it called? Threw me off there. But the level of competition just for Rakic much, much higher. And even like with Murzakanov, I'll never forget. I had Tafan against him at plus money. Tafan was winning that fight. He was up going into that 3rd round, and then he gets knocked out. That sucked. But it was also a terrible look. I mean, since then, like he's beaten better guys than Tafan. Like Jacoby's a solid win. Alonzo Menefield is a solid win. But it's just not the same level of competition that Rakic is facing. And I feel like Murzakanov is pretty low output. Now, Rakic is also kind of low output, so that's like about the same. But I also think Murzakanov, he's just small. He's small for the division. And I think his cardio is awful. Now, him being small, I don't think it's a great thing, but at least it allows him to be very fast. He's very fast. He's very light-footed. He's light on his feet. He's moving well. He's definitely quick for the division, but I do feel like he's just a bit too small, and I do feel like that cardio is not good. And I feel like as he slows down, that footwork starts to go as well. And with Rakic, I think that at range, like Rakic can pick him apart if he can just maintain the distance. Now, it might not be easy. Murzakonov's pretty good at closing that distance, but if Rakic is using those leg kicks and those body kicks early, that could be a really, really good way for him to make sure that Murzakanov is a lot slower, a lot less agile, a lot less, quick on the feet. And the sooner he does that, the better. I think that he probably will start early with the leg kicks. He almost always does. That's how he was winning that first round against Jiri. He was really going after those legs. He did it against Ankalaev too. So I do think he's going to go for the leg kicks. It could be tricky though, because if I'm not mistaken, Murzakanov is a southpaw. He is, but so was Ankalaev, and I think, let me double check the numbers. Yeah, Rakic landed 34 leg kicks on Ankalaev, who's also a southpaw. So I think that the leg kick should still be there for Rakic here, despite the open stance. I think that his jab will be money. I think that the body kicks could be money. I think that if anyone can get takedowns, I lean towards it being Rakic. I don't rate Mirzakhanov's wrestling. I don't rate his takedown defense. And I think that Rakic has good takedown defense, but if he wanted to wrestle, he could do it. He just doesn't really do it often. But if he wanted to, he can. I think he'll be stronger in the clinch. I think if he wanted to clinch up Mirzakhanov and stop him from moving for a little bit, he could do that as well. So for me, like, I think Rakic has a better cardio. We know he's the bigger guy. We know he's fought the much higher level of competition. I think that at range, you can have a lot of success. I think in the clinch, you can have a lot of success. And I think he can out-grapple Mirzakhanov. So for those reasons, I think Rakic gets it done. Going to go decision, and we can move on. Real quick, let's catch up with the chat. Kurz is saying Azamat split decision. Yeah, I mean, possible. Again, have to keep in mind where we're at and who's going to get the judge's favor, and it's certainly not going to be Rakic. Fook saying Nasrat was preparing to be on this card, but they couldn't find him an opponent until Sal killed. Okay. I mean, it's good to know he was in camp, but like he wasn't preparing for Sal killed still, you know. He didn't know if he was fighting a striker or a grappler or what. So, yeah, I mean, I totally understand why people would play Nasrat. I get it. 1,000,000% I get it. I just personally lean towards the Sal killed side. ACC saying Rakic needs a win. Yeah, he does. He does. But this is a step down for him. It is. Moving on. We've got Alexander Volkov versus Jonathan Almeida. Volkov, 38-11-0, 37 years old, 6'7" with an 80-inch reach. Almeida, 22-3-0, 34. He's 3 years younger. He's going to be 4 inches shorter, and he's going to have a 1-inch reach disadvantage. Excuse me. So, Volkov's one of my favorite heavyweights in the UFC, if not, I think he is my favorite heavyweight, honestly. I like Aspinall a lot too. We'll talk about him later, but Volkov might be my favorite. I like his game, and I just think he's a boss. His Pavlovich fight with him getting his hair combed in between the rounds was money. His striking is really good. I love his teep kicks. I think they're a tremendous weapon, and they're very, very good for him because he's so big and he has such long legs that he can just rip them up very easily. He's pretty fast for a man of his size. He hits very hard. He's a great striker, and his takedown defense is pretty good. The problem is he's so big that once he's on his back, like it's hard for a man that big to just get up. You know, he needs the fence. He needs the fence to work his way back up. And even then, like it's difficult. And Jonathan Almeida is going to grapple. He's going to. His striking has been looking a little bit better, I'll say. He's been showing it a little bit more. But he can't strike with Volkov. He can't. That would be a terrible, horrible, very bad day for him if he tried to strike with Volkov. But he's not going to. He's not. He's going to wrestle. And I think he's going to get the takedowns. And as much as I love Volkov, and I think that he shouldn't even be in this position, he should be fighting for the title, not Gane, because he won that fight, not Gane. And I had Gane in a parlay. So my pockets were grateful that he got the decision, but Gane didn't win that fight. He did not. But again, that's a different matchup. You know, just because he should have beaten Gane doesn't mean that he's going to beat Almeida because Almeida's not Gane, or I mean, not like the champion. Like, I think that Almeida is going to get him down. And I think he can submit him. I don't want to say easily, but I feel like it won't be that hard. So I'll go Almeida. I'll go Almeida round one. But it can get interesting if it leaves the first round. And it's a fight that I'm still looking at. And I don't think I'll be laying the chalk on Almeida, and I probably won't play the underdog, but we'll see. We'll see. We can move on. Oh boy. Next up, we have Umar Nurmagomedov versus Mario Bautista. Umar is 18-1-0, 29 years old. He's 5'8" with a 69-inch reach. Mario 16-2-0. He's 32. He's going to be 3 years older. He's going to be 1 inch taller, and he's going to have the same reach. Look, I'm pretty tempted on Bautista. I think that if we're talking from just a skill standpoint, like, yeah, Umar is a way better wrestler. He's a really, really good wrestler. But I don't think he's that much better of a striker than Bautista. I think it's very close on the feet. And Bautista will be the bigger and more physical guy, in my opinion. But, like, let's be real here. The scorecards are already written down. They're already written down. There's a 30-27 in there. There's a 30-26. And probably another 30-26. Maybe a 30-25. It's like, let's be real here, you know? The only way his brother Usman Nurmagomedov got a 50-45 against Paul Hughes in that fight is if that scorecard was written beforehand. That's the only way. Nobody, no reasonable person with an eyesight will look at that fight, even if they don't know MMA and they don't know everything. If they just sit down and you ask them, do you think this guy lost every single round? They're not going to say. They're not going to say yes. Those scorecards were pre-written. I promise you, it's going to be the same thing here. Mario needs to knock him out, submit him, and win a 30-27 on 3 scorecards just to get a split decision in this fight. It's just the truth of the matter. It is what it is. Like, that's what we're dealing with. I told myself after the Usman Paul Hughes the rematch, I'm never laying money on dogs fighting a Nurmagomedov in this region ever again. Never. And I think that no opponent should take these fights. If you are somebody who's on a win streak and you want to beat one of these guys to show how good you are, don't do it here. Don't do it here, because you're just not going to win a decision. Like, he's just not going to. It doesn't matter how clearly or dominantly he wins. He won't get it. He just won't. Maybe I'm still salty about losing on Paul Hughes. Maybe. But I would have been more okay with losing that bet if it wasn't there wasn't a freaking 50-45 scorecard on there, okay? But anyways, in terms of how they match up, narrative aside, like, yeah, Umar I think is the more skilled guy, and I'm not one of those Umar haters. I think he's a very good fighter. I picked him to beat Merab, despite Merab being my favorite fighter at the moment. I did pick him to win that fight, and I do rate him really highly. And I do think that when everything is said and done and Merab is done, I think Umar will be champ. And I think it's possible that Umar is the one who does end up taking the title from Merab. I think Umar's an elite wrestler. I think he's a very, very good grappler. And I think that while Batista does have very good takedown defense, I think that Umar can take him down and he can control him. And if he can't, he'll just do it again. And then on the feet, like I said, Umar's sharp. Umar's a sharp striker. He's clean. He has nice kicks. I would say that I think that Batista's a better boxer. I like his hands a bit more. I think he throws more volume. I think he low-key has power on the feet too. And I do like his kicks as well. But it all comes down to the wrestling. I don't think this fight's going to be on the feet much. Like, Mario's going to do his best to defend, and I think he's going to do better than a lot of Umar's opponents. I think he will be able to keep it on the feet for good portions of the fight. But I think ultimately Umar will be able to get the takedowns. I do think so. So I think he's going to win. I think he'll win by decision. But I think it doesn't matter. I think it doesn't matter who wins. Umar's going to get it anyway. Unless Mario actually finishes him, which I don't think he will. It's over. Like, this fight is already over. The scorecards are already written. I promise you, at least one of them is already written. Just watch how Batista. It's going to be a close fight. Batista makes it very, very close. He doesn't win. It's clear he doesn't win, but he won a round. And watch, there's going to be at least 130-27, if not a 30-26. And then you'll come back and you'll be like, Mike said so. All right. Before I move, if you guys could tell, I'm pretty pissed about the Paul Hughes situation. I have no clear read here with Volkov Jalton fight, but yeah, it might be a good fight to just watch because it'll be fun. UFC has to fix this. This is a bit, yeah. I mean, there's no incentive to fix it. They get a lot of money from there, so they're not going to do anything about it. If anything, they're just going to keep doing it. So it is what it is, and we just have to keep that in mind as people who put our hard-earned money on this stuff. All right, moving on, we have Virna Jandiroba versus Mackenzie Dern for the title, and it's a rematch. Who would have thought this fight would happen for a belt? We have Virna. She's 22-3-0, 37 years old, 5'3" with a 64-inch reach. Dern on the other side, she's going to be 15-5-0. She's 32. She's 5 years younger. She's going to be 1 inch taller, and she's going to be at a 1 inch reach disadvantage. I haven't fully taped this fight yet. I started it today, and then I wasn't able to finish before I had to come on and do the pod. But so nothing I say here is final, and I don't even really want to fill out this that I normally fill out, like who wins, because I'm just not confident yet. Now, I know a lot of people love Dern here. I know a lot of people who I respect very much so who are on Dern here, and I get it. If we're strictly looking at, okay, Dern's a better striker, Dern throws more volume, Dern has been 5 rounds, Virna has not. Okay, fair. And Virna hasn't had the prettiest round 3s at times, fair. But like, okay, I want to pull up the fights that Dern's gone 5 rounds. So there was the Angie Hill fight where, like, you guys know me. I love Angela Hill, literally my favorite women's fighter. I know that she's not somebody who always wins, but I just love the work ethic and I love how she fights. So she's probably my favorite women's fighter. That, like, Dern didn't face a ton of adversity there. She didn't. It was pretty easy for her to out-grapple Hill, right? Before that, who was it? There was the Marina Rodriguez one where she just got completely outstruck for 5 rounds. There was the Yang Jianan fight, similar story. She did have a few moments, where she put Yang Jianan in some dangerous spots, but she lost that fight. I was on Yang Jianan there actually at a pretty good price, I think, 3 years ago. Wow. And that's it. So it's those 3. So you do have to give her credit that she's been able to go 5, but she only won one of those, and that was the one with the least resistance. All right, that's one. And yeah, Verna hasn't been 5, and she has had shaky round 3s, but I personally don't think her cardio is that bad. I don't. And I think it's something that could be improving. I know she's 37, but I still think cardio is something that you can fix even if you're 50 years old. I think you can get better cardio, just work on it. And like, she's still winning round 3s. She's still getting takedowns. She's still controlling. So yes, the 5 rounds should favor Dern, but I'm not convinced that it's going to be some kind of crazy, crazy difference where Verna's just and Dern is just like fresh as a cucumber and just easily just taking her down and submitting her or something. I personally don't see that. And then when I look at their striking, like, yeah, Dern's a little bit of a better striker, I think, but are we going to pretend Dern is like some kind of amazing striker now? I don't think she is. I think she has some more pop to her punch than Verna does, but I don't think she's an amazing striker by any means. And, Verna, yes, she doesn't throw a lot of volume, but in that Dern fight, she was keeping up. She was down by like 20 significant strikes, 60 something to 80 something. But like, if you force her to stand, she'll throw. She just doesn't throw a lot because she's mostly grappling. Now, the wrestling and stuff, Dern went 0-5 on takedowns against Verna when they fought. Verna went 1-1. The one takedown she went for, she got it. Now, Dern is not somebody who's easy to hold down. She's someone who's very dangerous to hold down. She's, similar to Charles Oliveira in that regard, where some fighters just don't want to do it. Even if they know they can take her down, they just don't want to because it's very scary and it's very dangerous. But she can be controlled. It wouldn't be the first time. It's happened to her more than once. She can be taken down. She can be controlled. Louie was able to take her down. Lemos was able to take her down. Ribosh, but, we know how that ended. Dern did end up getting the sub. But I do think that Dern can be taken down. I don't think that Dern can take down Verna. Not fresh, at least. I mean, she can. I think it's just going to be harder for her to take down Verna than it will be for Verna to take down Dern. And what I love about Verna's grappling is her control is so good. She only needs 1 per round. And you see that time and time again on her. You go through her resume, her record, her UFC stats. She gets 1 takedown, and that's the round. Either she subs you or she just ends up on top and she wins that round. Because her control, her jiu-jitsu, it's very, very good. Now, it might be different with Dern, who's a little bit more scrambly, a little bit more dangerous. I need to look at it more. Again, this is a fight I have not fully taped. But for me personally, I'm leaning towards the Jandiroba side. I am worried about the cardio a little bit. I am worried a little bit about what happens if they're stuck on the feet. But I just lean towards Verna getting takedowns here. And I think that out of the 2 of them, I think Verna's hungrier, personally. Verna's the one who's on a streak. How many fights is it now in a row that she's won? Like, Verna earned this. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fights in a row, beating some of the women that Dern lost to, Lemos, Yang Jianan, and she's actually been, eyes on the title. Dern didn't even think that the title was like a possibility for her. She had no idea. She even said she didn't want to fight Yang Jianan yet because she didn't feel ready. She wasn't even thinking about a title shot. And then Yang Jianan moves up to fight at 125 against Valentina. Dana has this new rule where you can only hold 1 title at a time, and honestly, I'm all for it. And now we get this fight. And I'm looking at them. I'm looking at what they've been up to. It seems like Dern is all media, and Verna's grinding. So for me, I think Verna's more of a dog. I think Verna is a better offensive wrestler. I think Verna has better top control. I think Verna has better takedown defense. So, again, I'm not done taping this fight. Maybe my opinion will change when I am. Maybe I'll, look at some more fights and I'll be like, oh, Verna's cardio really is horrible. Like, no, I should not be backing her here. That's possible. I haven't finished yet. But right now, I think Verna's going to win. That's my personal pre-fully taped opinion. And I also do kind of like the overs. I do. I think Mackenzie Dern finishing is being overrated. I don't see it. Okay. A few of these I'm not going to bring up. How about this one? I don't rate Dern striking that highly. I have a heavy lean on Jandiroba. Yeah, she can, but like she's going to go for takedowns. And like Mackenzie Dern's takedown defense is like 25%. And she's confident off her back, but I just don't really think she's going to submit Verna. But anyways, we're up to the main event, and this is a really exciting main event to talk about. We have Tom Aspinall finally defending his undisputed title against Ciryl Gane. Aspinall 15-3-0, 32 years old, 6'5" with a 78-inch reach. Gane on the other side, 13-2-0, 35. He's 3 years older, 1 inch shorter, and he's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. I think, personally, first off, people are being way too emotional about this fight. Like, way too emotional. Gane shouldn't be Gane shouldn't be plus 300. Like, he just shouldn't be. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any logical sense whatsoever. Aspinall's never left the second round. And the majority of his fights have ended in the first round, and the majority of those have ended within like the first 2-3 minutes. Just based off that alone, he should not be minus 400. It does not make sense. I think people are just emotional. I think they're upset because they felt that Ciryl Gane doesn't deserve this, and he doesn't. He did not win the Volkov fight. He shouldn't be here. But that doesn't mean he can't win this fight. This is a new fight, a different matchup. And yes, can Aspinall spank him on the ground? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And I think that's the most likely outcome. I think Aspinall will take him down and submit him in the first round. But this is mixed martial arts. You make these guys fight 100 times. Every single fight is going to be different. And if Aspinall does not take him down and submit him in the first round, what happens then? Because you can't, unless you're extremely biased and extremely emotional, you can't say Aspinall's a better striker overall than Gane. You can't. Based on what? I think he's faster. He's extremely fast for the division, but Gane is fast too. And I think Aspinall I think he's a better boxer. I think his hands are ridiculous, especially in the pocket. But at range, he's not a better kickboxer than Gane. He's not. Gane has way better kicks. I love Gane's deep kicks. Gane has nice combinations, and he has great output too. So off the bat, you can't say Aspinall's a better striker. You can say he's a better boxer. I don't think you can say he's a better kickboxer. He barely even throws any kicks. So that's one. Second off, Aspinall's never left the first round outside of the Arlovsky fight, right? So immediately when I was taping this, I went to go look, and sure enough, towards the end of the first round, Aspinall's breathing heavy. As the second round is starting, Aspinall is breathing heavy. He was tired, and he didn't even want to strike anymore. He was like, screw this. And he just went for the takedown, and he was able to submit Arlovsky, ancient Arlovsky. But that was one round of striking with an old man, a legend of the sport, but an old man, one round with him, and he was exhausted. And he hadn't even really wrestled yet. So how can you possibly be confident that if this fight leaves the first round, Aspinall will be okay? It's possible he is. I think Hamzat is one good example, right? I didn't think Hamzat would have the cardio to do that to DDP and win a decision, but he did. Hamzat didn't. Now, on the other hand, Hamzat, at least prior to that, had gone the distance before against Gilbert, against Usman. He at least had gone 3 rounds. Aspinall's never even left the second. He's never even left the first minute of the second round. But it's possible. Aspinall's an athlete. He's young. He's a beast. He works hard. So it's entirely possible that he can go all 5 rounds and look like a boss doing it. 100%. It's possible. But he's minus 400. If you're laying chalk on Tom Pre on the money line and he's minus 400, you don't know. You just don't know. You're just assuming, or you're being emotional because you hate Gane. That's it. Because in my opinion, if Aspinall doesn't take him down in the first round, and the first round is on the feet only, Gane, that means Gane probably landed 5 to 10 teep kicks. That is going to slow down Aspinall. It will. And if Aspinall wrestled and Gane didn't get submitted, that's also going to slow him down. So it's just stuff you have to think about, because there are advantages here for Gane. He's gone 5 rounds more than once. He is the cleaner kickboxer, in my opinion, and I don't think there's much argument room in there. So I do think he has a path, and I think that people who bet him that it's a good bet. I think it's a good bet. It's not one that I want to make, just because I think that a live entry on Gane might be better. And if you're into the House of Stims Discord, you know my breakdown on this fight already. You know already the one spot that I did take, and you know how we're approaching this fight. But I don't think you can lay minus 400 on Tom Pre. I don't. I think that, again, the most likely outcome for me is a Tom sub, and I think the numbers on that are pretty nice. I think it's a Tom sub in the first. But I think if it leaves the first round, this is going to get really interesting, and we're going to learn a lot about Tom Aspinall. So I'm still picking Aspinall to win. He's up there as my favorite heavyweight with Volkov. I'm not a Gane fan, never was, but I do think he's good. And I just think that people are being really, really emotional about this in their breakdowns and in their... It's really the people who are just more casual fans, but still, like, I think there's a very valid argument for Gane. I also think there's a decent argument to be made for the fight goes the distance. I don't hate that either, because it kind of covers most of Gane's upside, and also covers Aspinall having cardio after all and being able to grapple Gane for 5 rounds. So I don't hate that. It's like plus 600. It's a crazy number, but the one thing holding me back there is like, okay, but Aspinall could finish early, and if I'm right that Aspinall might struggle late, maybe Gane gets him out of there late. So, yeah, I'm going to pick Aspinall sub round 1. But like I said, I think a pre bet on Gane isn't terrible. I think a live entry could be good. I think there's ways to target this fight. I don't think that laying minus 400 on Aspinall is one of them. Let's see what we got in the chat, and then we'll run through my picks one more time, and then we'll get on out of here. And we got 823 of you, most of you on Twitter, but please like, subscribe, follow, retweet. It all really, really helps. If you like my stuff, you like listening to my breakdowns, please do so. All right, let's see. I think Gane frustrates him. It could happen. Please let this fight go around. Yeah, I'd be interested to see how it plays out if it gets extended. Arlovsky fight was long ago. He's way better now. I mean, sure, but that's the only example I have of him leaving the first round. How can I possibly know what his cardio is like? That's the only thing I have. And he hasn't been pushed inside of the cage to go past the first since then. So how can I just assume that his cardio is better? I can't. Again, it's possible. Look at Hamza. He's a great, great example. But I just, like, he's minus 400. You got to be careful. Even Hamza wasn't that. Hamza was like, what? Minus 250, 275? I think Gane can wrestle a bit too. He actually can. He does have decent enough offensive wrestling. But yeah, all right. That's it, guys. That's UFC 321. I'll run through the picks one more time, and then we'll get out of here. So, haven't taped the first fight yet, but it's Amorim for me pre-tape. Maksum, Hamdy, Wood, but I don't know. I'm not confident. Walker, Al-Selwady, but not confident. Rebecki, Aliskerov, but dogger pass. Sal killed for me. Rakic, Almeida, Umar, Jandiroba. Still need to finish taping it. And Aspinall. Thank you guys all for tuning in. I do have a lot of stuff going on this week in terms of content. One show I can't announce yet because it's not official, but I'm sure you guys will see it if you follow me on Twitter once it's official, if it is. And then tomorrow we'll be going live for the panel. Me and my co-host Tyler, 138 MMA. It's going to be on his channel this week. And we do have great guests, so make sure you tune in. It'll be at 9 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. We'll talk about the fights all over again. And my shorts will probably be coming out on Friday. That's when I've been putting them out recently. Thank you guys all for tuning in. Peace out and good luck.